Running and gunning is some of the best that Reflex Gaming has to offer. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I count down the top 10 run and gun games of all times. The rules for this list, one game per franchise, and it has to be a 2D side-scrolling action run 'em, shoot 'em up, and jumpin' adventure. So let's start this list now.
Second Opinion Games.
Number 10, Gunman Clive HD Collection for the Nintendo Switch. This might be a budget game, but you would not believe the bang for your buck. It was also made by just a handful of people. Gunman Clive has a beautiful hand-drawn art style with very little colors and serene music. Gunman Clive 2, everything was just turned up about 4 more notches, including about 4 more colors. There's also some cool 3D stages to work your way through, but what the game really has to offer is action platforming at its finest and some of the coolest boss battles that were ever put into a video game. Seriously, if this team focuses on the bosses, they could probably make one of the best games ever made. Number 9, CT Special Forces 2 for the Game Boy Advance. The 5th and 6th console generations didn't really see that many run and gun games, so the Game Boy Advance really came through here with a game that plays similar to Metal Slug, but slightly more realistic. It still keeps a cartoony art style, but the gameplay itself is a bit more strategic. You could switch back and forth between your pistol and your machine gun, managing bullets and shooting down terrorists. You could be planting bombs or disarming bombs, jumping off a building just to parachute down below, picking up sniper rifles to save hostages, and you have a really well-crafted game. This series was also on the original PlayStation, in Europe only I'm afraid, and these games were horrible on the PlayStation, but played terrifically on the Game Boy Advance, with the best one being the second one. So if you have a really small screen that you want to play on the go, you can't go wrong here. Number 8, Gunstar Heroes for the Sega Genesis. This is a game that's treasured by everyone, especially Treasure. It was their very first game, and they knew they had to ace it right out of the gate. One of the coolest things about this, other than the very fast, frantic gameplay and some of the cool graphical things that they have going on, pushing the Sega Genesis to its absolute limit, was the ability to pick up multiple weapons and even fuse them together in some of the coolest and most creative ways. Sometimes it makes the game an absolute breeze if you happen to get the right combination. Later, Nintendo would steal this for Kirby 64 because it just worked so darn good, and it definitely works great for Gunstar Heroes. Later, this game was even somewhat remade for the Game Boy Advance, but I could still treasure the Sega Genesis version. Number 7, The Adventures of Batman and Robin for the Sega Genesis. Choosing between Batman or Robin on your adventure, that's a really hard decision. Eventually you go with Batman, and you jump into a beat-em-up / run and gun where they meld the two genres together perfectly. You could charge up your Batarang shot to do a vicious amount of damage to the bosses, in which there are many. Nearly every single stage ends with a boss battle that's done inventive. There's also some unbelievable special effects here that I didn't even know that the Sega Genesis could do. There's a few levels where they just switch it up with a horizontal shooter just to break up the monotony, and you have yourself one of the best Batman games ever, and it happens to be one that's very much like a run and gun. Number 6, King of Demons Super Famicom. This is probably the best Super Nintendo game not to actually leave Japan, and it's probably because the graphics are just so gruesome with its gory aspect, with blood flying everywhere and half-naked girls. It just pushed the censors to the absolute extreme. Also, the backgrounds here are so beautiful, I want to make them into art and hang it on the wall. If you add in one of the best train levels ever, that could be enough to push it over the edge. You could play through the whole game as a human-only run, or there are 3 different demons that you could transform into. If you take it all the way to the end of the game as one particular demon, you could be supercharged, or maybe you could even unlock a 4th style of demon. And you have multiple endings here as well, and both of them are satisfying in their own right, and you have one of the coolest, best, over-the-top run and gun games you could ever play. It's just a shame that it cost a fortune. Number 5, Demon Front for the arcade. If you never heard of this one, that's because it never left Japan, and it seems to be quite rare in a game that's sort of like Metal Slug, at least in its gameplay and its art style, but I think this art is just a little bit better. But there is another gimmick here, outside of being actually fair to play, so it's not to overload you with tons of different creatures at any one point in time. And when it does, there's some slowdown here, but it's not really one that you mind because it allows you to move in and out of the bullets just a little bit better. Also, the music's kind of cool. But back to the gimmick, and that's that each character has their own special animal, which they could use for a devastating charge attack or a shield, so it's not a one-hit kill type of game. However, your shield can be completely depleted, and then your helper animal is completely gone with no more charge attack, and then you will die. So it didn't eat your quarter in seconds. Instead, it lasts for minutes. So you could probably set it for about 10 credits and play through the entire game and then keep coming back to it because it is definitely one of the best arcade-style run guns I think I ever played. Number 4, Alien Hominid, Xbox, PS2, GameCube, and Game Boy Advance. No matter which console you play it on, it's gonna be just as smooth on any of them, because it's running as like a Flash-based game. Who would have thought Flash could make such a great retail release? Well, obviously the people that played this game did, and people might be on my case about not putting Cuphead on this list, and that's because every time I play Cuphead, I wish I was playing this game as this goofy little alien running around slaughtering all the FBI agents that happen to steal his spaceship, just keeping him from going home, and he'll do so in some of the goriest possible ways, with his great maneuverability to be able to dodge back and forth, an awesome charge attack to unleash massive devastating firepower, and you could even jump on the back of the FBI agents and bite off their heads in front of their comrades, making them scream with terror. Man, this is an over-the-top game. And if you really are into boss battles, boy does it have some great ones that also double as puzzles. Maybe the 6th generation didn't have so many run guns because this one was done perfect and no one could top it. Number 3, Metal Slug Anthology for the Wii. It's easy to be better than one Metal Slug game, but not 7 of them, and you could use the Nintendo GameCube controller on the Wii, making controlling it even better. You have Metal Slug 1, 2, X, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here, and it's really cool to see how the games really progressed over the years. You'll be killing pseudo-Nazis one moment, and then you'll be taking out indigenous people the next, or maybe wiping some type of rare life form from the planet Earth. Boy, they really had their priorities not in order here at all. And you save some really cool hostages that help you out with heavy machine guns. Dude, if you had the heavy machine gun, how come you didn't use it to help save yourself? Or maybe even have explosive missiles or throw grenades at everything that moves. Man, Metal Slug really set the bar in the arcades for over-the-top run and gun action experiences, and it's hard to believe that there's any games better than this one. But there is a couple more that's on my list. Number 2, Elevator Action Returns for the Sega Saturn and the arcade. And boy did they ever port the arcade game over perfectly to the Sega Saturn, with great attention to detail. When you shoot someone, blood could splatter up on the walls behind them. You could even shoot out light switches, or maybe even knock out the cameras. Watch out for those elevators though, because they could come down and crush you. And one of the things that just amazes me about this game is all of the care and the frames of animation that's been put into every single character. If you let them sit around too long, their idle animations are all cool. The sound effects are terrific. Blowing up everything seems excruciatingly satisfying, and the cool transition scenes in between levels is done with near perfection. And you can beat this entire game in like 15 minutes, so you never really get that bored of it because you're just gonna put it in again and beat it all over again, basically every day for months on end, because it is that much of a good time. Heck, you could even find some civilians that are caught in the crossfire. This one guy is even shocked and he's sitting on a toilet just praying for God that he gets out of here alive, and you find yourself with one of the coolest games to never come out here in the States. It's one of those Japanese exclusive Sega Saturn games. Number 1 is a tie between Contra 3. The first Contra game really made the run and gun experience worthwhile, but Contra 3 just pushed everything else to its absolute limits. The music is definitely some of the best, even by today's standards, and the way it transitions between songs is amazing, and really sets the mood for the gruesome atmosphere that it's truly trying to set. You have different weapons that you could switch back and forth on the fly, a challenge level that really pushes most people to their absolute limits, a bomb that could destroy nearly everything on the screen, and really helps out for some of those pesky boss battles. And this is definitely one of the best run and guns ever made. So what game could possibly hold a candle to stand up next to it? Well, in comes Mechastermination Force for the Nintendo Switch. Remember the people that made Gunman Clive? Well, now they made a game with only boss battles, with multiple forms and tons of puzzle elements. On top of it, you can unlock upgrades to your gun and your life, giving you lots of different hit points. Now, some of these bosses seem like they're nearly impossible until you figure out how to take them down. And then they can be killed in like a minute or two. There's different challenges that you can perform trying to beat them in the fastest possible time, or maybe even trying to beat them without even taking a single hit, which is way too difficult for me. Some of these bosses are just insane, and it just keeps me coming back for more. And then you throw in the HD graphics, the bright and colorful screens, and the music is just terrific, and you have yourself a game worthy of standing up next to Contra 3 as the best run and gun game of all times. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and these are some of my favorite games of all times. And I want to know if your favorite run gun had made this list. And I also want to know what top 10 you guys want me to cover next. Is it something weird that just no one else will touch but me? I really hope for a lot of good suggestions, because I want to keep doing this for many years to come. So until later, I will see you again, guys.